Feeling alone, overwhelmed? Low-key listening is here to help. Whether you want to vent, share your thoughts, or just have someone truly listen to you, we have real people standing by, ready to listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can download the app for free on Apple App Store or Google Play. Simply set up an account, find someone, and they will listen to what you have to say. You can actually even take voice memo notes and send them to the person. You can even text the person. Here's the best part. It is completely anonymous, not only for you, but the person listening. Because after all, don't we want somebody there willing to listen to us? Download the Low Key app today. Talk, be heard, and feel better. Low Key listening on your favorite app store.
They say opportunity knocks, but what if it's not opportunity? What if it's something or someone else? A familiar voice from the past, a chance you've been waiting for, a mistake you thought you left behind, or maybe something far bigger than you imagined. Some doors were open without hesitation, others will cautiously peek through, and some we wish had never answered. This season on Other People's Shoes, host Neil Matthews is asking one question. Who's there? Will you answer? Will you hesitate? Step inside season 22 of Other People's Shoes, where every knock holds a story, and every door leads to a choice. Now here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Yes. Welcome in, one and all. Ugh, that music still, man, who picked the music out for that? It still scares me. It still scares me. So here's a scary story. I grew up in Kent Pendleton, California. Go Marines, Semper Fi. We had a sliding glass door when I was a kid, and there was this bar. This is like, mid 80s, early 90s. This metal bar would come down and lock into place, and so you couldn't slide the sliding glass door open. And every night I would wake up periodically in the middle of the night, and I would just check to see that the bar was in fact down, locked in place, all the things. And one night in particular, I woke up and I looked over and the bar is on top of the sliding glass door handle. And so it's cracked open enough that somebody could walk through it. And I was so scared to death to walk over there because I thought, oh my gosh, somebody's broken into our house, which had happened before. A little bit of prior trauma already in existence. And I walked over there, and as I slid the door open to kind of peek outside, look left, looked right, my brother and his friend decided to grab me through the door. I don't know if I urinated on myself, but I really probably did. And I was so scared. What does all that have to say about our guest today? Well, today's guest, I think, is really all about playing this game that we maybe thought was funny, because they probably thought it was funny to do that as kids. This other game that may have been funny for us as kids that was also kind of sort of challenging, and that's called Simon Says. So right now, Simon says, put your hands on your head. Simon says, put your hands on your knees. Simon says, put your hands on your eyes. Simon says, touch your elbow, touch your knee. Did you just touch your knee? Because if so, you're out. Help me welcome in my new friend, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm great. And I was hanging on every word of that story, and I would have been terrified. That sounds tragic.
It's like a monologue with Jimmy Fallon. Sometimes we wonder where it's going. We all wonder where it's going.
He does too, I'm sure. Yes.
I was trying to illustrate the idea of sometimes things at our door are super scary. And sometimes things at our door, we're following someone else to the door thinking we're just having fun. Really, it could be scary for the other person on the other side. Some people see two people at a doorway and they're like, ooh, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I want to open the door to that. But sometimes if we don't open the door, we may not know what's on the other side. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. I screen who's at the door. Fuzzy glass window in our door, and you betcha, if I can't make out the image, no thanks. I'll pass. You leave what you have to offer in my mailbox. And I don't mind if they know I'm there. Like, they can see me and I'm still not answering. Yes, I screen those knocks.
And I think that's the part I love about this series is everyone has their own way, by the way, of screening said people at the door. I'm a big Ring camera guy. In fact, my wife told me that we've upgraded our Ring camera now. Apparently we had an old version. Now we got a better version. Looking at that camera, sitting on the couch, I'm like, nope, don't need to answer that door. Of course, now we live sort of in the country. Most people that come to my door are my relatives. And I'm like, great, they're at the door again. What do they want? Try to watch TV.
Yeah, that's harder when it's family. You can't quite pretend you're not home. They'll call you on that.
I want to, though. I don't know if there's a better way. So maybe we can ponder that and come back to that. Well,
yeah.
Help us with this, Stephanie, as we get going and rolling. And that's this. What is your favorite pair of shoes to wear?
Oh, I have a pair of Dorkings. Have you heard this? This
No,
brand, Door.
no.
It
Are you
sounds-
saying
I don't know who
Door
named it.
Kings? Door Kings?
Yeah, Dorkings.
Dorkings.
Dorkings. Dorking.
So like a dork, like we would derogatorily call someone in school like, oh, you're a dork.
Yeah.
Kings. Door Kings. Okay, I'm Googling right now.
Yeah, they're great shoes. I have a pair of runners, Dorkings, and then a pair of heels. And to find heels, you wouldn't know this, Neil, heels for a woman that you actually want to wear all night long and not find an excuse to take them off under the table. That's hard to find. It's possible.
All right, Door Kings. All right, I'm taking a look here. Ooh, those are fancy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have like the boot variety, or you have this gigantic heel variety. They're $225. Is that US? That can't be US.
I don't know if that's US. No, that's probably Canadian.
Yeah,
I have
those
I've
darn
got like a
Canadians.
sneaker style, and then like a reasonable heel and like an inch heel. That's kind of my zone.
These look fancy. I'm going to have to send these on to my bride and see what she thinks about it. They do have a Spice Girl variety. I don't know if you knew that.
Did not.
Yeah, they kind of look like maybe Posh Spice would wear these, perhaps.
Oh, that's a problem. Yeah.
And
I
then-
do not endorse that style. I want to be clear.
They also have some flats as well, you know?
Yeah.
Ooh, they have like ballerina light blue pair. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if I knew a girl that liked light blue, I'm not me. I'm all things light blue, but you have to draw some
Maybe you
lines
get a
somewhere.
pair just for the back wall in your little suite there.
Maybe the shoe shack needs some girl shoes. Is that what you're telling me? We have too
I
many
think
boy
it does
shoes?
to balance off a little bit. Yeah,
Okay. Is there too many shoes, do you think we have, as far as you can tell, in the shoe shack?
possibly.
Maybe I do need a pair of women's shoes. Who knows? All right, let that go on record. Stephanie, I was joking as we started preliminarily talking in the blue room, because we really don't have a green room. It seems weird to call it that because it's not green, it's blue. As we were talking, I said that you sort of circumvented the system that we have in place. We have these great systems, and you're like, I'm just going to bypass all those. I'm going to jump on the website. I'm going to tell you, like, here's my golden ticket. I'm ready to get into Wonka Mansion, hear my story. And I just found that so amazing, by the way. I really did. Because I was like, well,
Thank
it
you.
gets right to me. Like there's no screening. It just goes right straight to the email. I wondered about this, and this is still my curiosity. When I thought about this idea of a front door, it does sort of scare me a little bit. As I mentioned, family members and crazy story of being pulled through a glass door. It's a little intimidating sometimes when you think about who could be at your front door. So if we were going to ask you that, who is at your front door, or what maybe is been at your front door, your answer to that might be what?
Are you asking who was knocking at my door?
Or how do you interpret when we're talking about who's there, this idea of our season theme?
I have felt this knocking on my door for quite a while, and it was this longing, this curious, inviting sense. I now believe it was God. I think it was a spiritual knocking. When I saw your writing, and hence why I just sent you an email, I'm like, I should email Neil. This longing to answer the knock, but also avoiding it for a long time. I can explain more. Avoiding this knocking because I was intimidating. Even if we know who's on the other side, we might know, wow, this is going to change everything if I open this door, and I don't know if I'm ready yet.
I can relate with that completely. Been moments in my life, I've had an opportunity and I think, do I take it? Do I not? A couple of years ago, I found out that my daughter's high school was looking for a public address announcer for all their sporting events. So somebody come out and call the lineups for the kids as they run out on the field and maybe make announcements throughout the game. And I just thought, man, that's amazing. I love that. I love being around kids. I'm an old youth pastor guy. And so I'm like, that's fun. And I love sports. And I'm like, this is just perfect. Get to be behind a microphone. Yes. And even better, because I love being behind a microphone. I just thought this is going to be so cool. And so I came out to the Shoe Shack Studios, this room that I sit in, and I made this amazing demo with this amazing music and all this stuff. And the school wrote me back and said, gosh, we're not interested, but thanks. And I was crushed. I was like, here's that opportunity. Here's the moment. Here's the knock. Like I felt the moment happening and it was gone. A couple of months later, my family and I are in Nassau, Bahamas, and we get off the boat. We'd been without internet for a week, so I'm jonesing. Just want to check the email, see maybe it's Stephanie, maybe she's emailed back. And I look and there's an email from the school saying, hey, some things have changed. Would you still be interested? And part of me in my heart of hearts was overjoyed, elated. Like, oh, finally, they've seen the talent. They've respected the craft. And the other flip side of that coin was, no, screw them. Like they should have had me the first go round. Is that anywhere close to what you're experiencing? Am I just way off in Bermuda still, perhaps?
I can relate to that. The sense of excitement, anticipation, kind of a sense of, I think I was designed for this. All the work, the experiences have wrote a certain path, created a certain path. And now I'm here and I think I'm supposed to serve in this way. I'm supposed to do this next thing. It would be alarming and disappointing to think that door closed for even a few weeks or months. That would shake the assessment. Did I read that right?
So what is this thing that you heard? What is the knock? What is the calling? What is the purpose of what made you open this door?
I'll back up and mention that I was an executive director of a nonprofit for 11 years. Why that's relevant is large part of my heart and my mind thought I was doing God's work. It was very mission driven. That's relevant because when I heard this knock and I sensed this knock on my heart to do something else, I thought, well, how could that be? How would I leave God's ministry to go do something else? That can't be God's will. Wouldn't God just want me to be doing this nonprofit stuff? So first of all, I wrestled with, there must not be a knock. And if there is a knock, it can't be God because God would want me in ministry. 11 years, not the whole time was this sense of knocking, but probably for the last 4 years, easily, there was a sense that I was called into something else. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It was this amalgamation of two worlds of my life. One around personal relationships and my professional experience. Both of these arenas of my life were really transformed around about 2008, that kind of era, exploring what do healthy relationships look like, healthy conflict, healthy teams, healthy marriages, all of that. Both arenas of my life were being hit hard, transformed, and changed in many ways. And my mind was growing, the transformation of our mind, where I started understanding things that once confused me and things that I thought were normal, either dysfunction in a relationship or low grade, toxic, all teams are kind of lousy, but both arenas weren't all that great. These areas of my life both changed drastically. And then there became this knocking of, Steph, I need you to tell other people about this and show them another way to do life and healthy relationships or to do team relationships. That this idea that all work kind of sucks. That's not by design. That's not how it should be. And so I felt this knocking that, Steph, now that you are on this journey, show someone else how to get here. Well, that can't be right. God, you would only ask me to stay where I am.
Why would he want you to stay where you are?
This false logic that said, well, because I'm part of a ministry that is doing God's work, and for the audio version, this is air quote, God's work. Therefore, this is the most holy thing I could do. And deviating from that into this other arena would be less holy than staying. This is calculation of what's the most holy job to have or something. I don't know. My brain attempted to analyze this. The knocking just stayed and it got louder and it got louder and it got louder. I remember writing, so this is 2 years ago at Christmas time. I had Christmas holidays and I wrote in my journal, I was praying. I said, okay, God, I think you want me to change my job, or at least I think I want to change my job, but I don't know how to do this. So you're going to have to do something here. I don't know what to do. And I just set it aside. A lot of these things I just say out loud and I talk to God about them. And then I see how things unfold. The rest of the year comes up in August of last year. I was at church one Sunday morning and God just hits me. I was weeping. I was just overwhelmed with this clarity that God was saying, Steph, it's time to leave your job. Scripture was about Abraham and Isaac and how Abraham walked for 3 days into the unknown with his son, knowing this doesn't make sense. And he obeyed when it didn't make sense. And again, I just was overwhelmed with I don't know. This doesn't make sense to me. Abraham's called the father of faith, and he's called that way, not because he felt faithful or he was at the right church or any religion or anything, but because he listened and obeyed. And this was just overwhelming me that I need to listen and obey and resist that understanding. I want this to make sense. The other detail to why this did not make sense was my husband in May of that year. So what is that? 5 months earlier was laid off. So in our family with 5 children, I'm the only income earner at this point in our household. And God's saying, hey, Steph, you should leave your job. Let me tell you the conversation I had with God about, first of all, that can't be God because that doesn't make sense. And then if it is, you must not know math or bank accounts. and all of these things. I wanted to explain to God as to why this can't be true. I talked to my husband about what I was experiencing, this knock. For 8 mornings, I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to keep praying about it and discern, like, God, is this you? And for every morning, for 8 mornings, I just prayed and I said, God, what's up? Are you asking me to quit my job? And every morning what I heard was, set it in motion, set it in motion. And I thought, well, okay, one, what does that mean? And I think it means send a message to the board, notify my board, and just get it started. Eventually, after day 8, and after talking to my husband at length about why this doesn't make sense, I've learned enough that I can trust that, and God gets to veto my fear. And so I set it in motion. I opened that door.
Canadians are kind of crazy, though.
Yes.
Who walks away with no shot of an income?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say. Did I misunderstand that?
No, you're completely right. I had no plan.
There would be the skeptics in the corner drinking their punch on the wall, right? The wallflowers, as we call them, in your junior high days, were the ones that didn't dance but stood on the wall and judged everyone. Maybe that's too far back to remember. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't that long for me. It feels like it's just like 2 weeks ago. There are those in the room right now that would say, what an unfit mother. How could you do that to her kids?
I know.
And there are others that would say, well, doesn't she know the Bible that Satan can mask himself as an angel of light?
Yeah.
What's your response to those? Again, I'm not saying that the skeptic's good. I want to be clear. I'm not a jerk. I just, I don't want to throw rocks.
No, it's great. It's a great question. To add some more details to this is my family of origin wouldn't call themselves believers, or I don't think that's how they would define themselves. And so when I told them, in fact, I had some family visiting on my last day of work. So the rest of the story goes, I set it in motion. I said, I'll serve you however you need. And they said, okay, well, give us a month. Guy I had worked with for 8 years was going to be the clear successor, and service for a month. And I said, okay, I'll ask for 3 weeks of silence so we don't notify all of the members and people that I had come to know over the 11 years. The 3 weeks had passed. Monday, my email was going to go out to all the public of I was changing this position. And the Sunday before, and again, I still have no plan. This was radical. I totally understand that. And I'll answer your question in just a moment. Sunday morning, I get a text from a consultant I had hired in 2018. And he said, hey, Steph, I'm growing my firm. There's ever a chance you want to change your job, let me know. And I said, well, that's interesting. I'm texting back like frantic. I said, well, that's interesting because this is my last week of work and I have no plan. The end of the work week comes. I come home with a basket, gift basket, things for my staff and my team, and my family's in my living room. They don't know because I didn't have the nerve to tell them yet that I had quit my job. And they're like, oh, what's the basket, Steph? And I said, well, today was my last day of work. And so I had to answer this question, a very prudent, smart question, like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Do you have another job? What's the plan? Well, other than this random text I got a few days ago that looks to be developing into something quite interesting, I'm actually just following what I think God is asking of me. I got the question, and it's a good question. Steph, what do you mean you heard from God? Like, what is that? And is it a big voice? Did he send you a text message too? What are you talking about? This is not the first time I've discerned or experienced God's direction, which that's relevant because I don't think he'll start with like, hey, quit your job. If you're going to start discerning God's will, he's probably not going to start there. Little weak muscles that have been flexed over some time. And there's other stories about my life where I followed God's clarity. So I described to them this sense of knowing and this peacefulness that is given to me. It's like I receive it. I don't conjure it up. The way I've learned to know God's voice is peaceful knowledge, like a peaceful whisper. And I know that's different than my will because my will sounded really loud and really panicked. My ideas were like, oh my gosh, Steph, what are you talking about? Bills and things and all of this stuff. And yet, if I just quieted that fear, I could hear this still small voice, this really peaceful message that I've come to know. Like, I know that. To my sister, she in particular challenged me. She said, like, what, Steph, like, hear God's voice. What do you mean? And the analogy that I offered her, I said, if her husband calls her, phone ID doesn't work that day. So just phone rings, you pick it up and you hear your husband's voice on the line, but you can't see his number or name or anything. And he says, hey, I need you to come do this thing. It's a big deal. Be right over. Would you drop what you're doing and go listen? Or would you say, you know what? I didn't see your name on there. I'm not sure who you are. be like, no, that's my husband's voice. I know his voice. I know who he is. And so we would probably just listen to what he was saying. And similarly, the sense of, I know how God speaks to me now. There's lots of discernment. I think it's prudent. God was inviting me in this gentle, peaceful way. And I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was full of peace and love. I knew it was deep down rooted inside of me, this knocking, an invitation. It wasn't a force. It wasn't based out of fear. It was actually based off of this beautiful invitation to say, will you come? Like, will you follow me? Will you trust me in this? And I could have declined. That's the beauty of it, is I could have declined. In that occasion, I answered, I opened the door, and it's been this wild ride. I am so excited to be on and to listen to that.
Skeptics aside, I had somebody ask me year 4 of doing the show, what would it take for me to quit my job and do it full time? And I laughed at them, like hysterically laughed at them. I said, you got to be dreaming. And they're like, no, listen, Neil, you have something here. I've heard your previous shows. Some people sort of have podcasting down. You're wired for it. I was like, yeah, okay. Thanks. False modesty. Nice to hear. Nobody's banging down my door. Nobody's knocking at my door repeatedly to throw money at my feet saying, quit your job, go do podcasting full time. I'm no Joe Rogan. I don't have the appeal that Jordan Peterson brings. Sorry, I had to bring a Canadian into it just to help.
Thank you.
That's for you. That was not for everyone. That was for you. I don't have that following that those guys have. And I think to myself, there's no way I could do that. Like if I walked into my house right now and said, babe, listen, I met this really nice girl from Canada. She thinks I should quit my job and start podcasting. She would think I was crazy.
Of course. Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a Bible aficionado. I mean, it sounds like if you're on staff at the church, you sort of know the Bible pretty well. Again, this isn't like Bible trivia. You don't win a prize if you know the verse or not. As you're talking, this verse actually came to my mind, and I didn't know you were going to share that. Not like I had this verse pre-lined up, right, Stephanie? We didn't talk ahead of time. All right. John chapter 10 for those Bible snobs. John chapter 10, verse 27 and 28 says this. My sheep recognize, this is the Living Version, by the way, so throw your rocks. My voice, in other words, they know it, to your point of the caller ID thing. And I know them, and they follow me.
Yeah.
I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one shall snatch them away from me. Now, it's not red. I know my Bible pretty well. That's Jesus talking there.
Yeah.
That's my Savior. That's my God. My belief is God and Jesus one and the same. God and the bod, I've heard once said about Jesus. My point being, I don't know if I always recognize his voice. You said you knew it. You recognized it. Yeah. And again, and I don't mean to sound rude in this, if I hear your voice again, maybe a couple of years down the road, I don't know if I could grab it and pick it out. We haven't spent enough time together for me to recognize your voice. Again, not an insult, just a reality.
Yeah.
That would mean to me, in my super sleuth abilities, that in order for you to really know his voice, and again, as the scripture says, recognize it, you had to have spent time with him.
Yeah.
Is that what people are maybe missing when they're trying to discern, is this God? Is this the spaghetti I had last night that's indigestion? Is this my mom's voice from when I was a child criticizing me? Is this my dad's voice who never loved me? Like, whose voice is this? Is this Susie's, JoJo's? Whose voice is this? It's not Jeopardy. Kind of feels like, what's the right answer? How did you recognize that it really was his voice? And I know you said, well, it's this peace, it's this stillness, it's this calm, it's not mine. I heard all that. I really did. There has to be more to that.
You're right, though. The familiarity, the time together. And it's not like every time I sit down in prayer, which I typically pray every day, it's not like every time I'm having this great dialogue. There have been moments in my life, frequently, I'm asking God. And I think what I didn't know at one point of my life in my walk with Jesus, prayer, my conversation with God, was one directional for a long time. I talk to you, you bless what I do. That's how we're going to do this. And then my life got painful enough that I decided that model wasn't going to work anymore. So I started asking for wisdom, which means I have to listen for an answer. And now prayer looks like me talking a little bit, listening a lot. And in that way, his voice, and again, I use that term loosely, his voice, his spirit, his wisdom can become familiar. And that took time.
We used to play a game in youth group called Ducky Wucky. I know. bizarre name. What would happen is the person would sit with their back to the audience, almost like the conductor of the band. He's facing the band, and when he turns, facing away from the audience, your back would be to the kids, and the kids would be along a wall, and they would come up one by one, and they would say the phrase, ducky wucky. The idea was you were trying to disguise your voice so you wouldn't be able to tell if it was, Stephanie or Neil or Johnny or Susie. Man, they just get a bad rap, Johnny and Susie, Olivia, whatever. That was the whole point of the game. And you had to say the phrase ducky wucky. And the kids just loved it. They thought it was, I'm sure some of them thought it was lame. It was really hard. They would get clever and creative on how they would do it. There were some, again, nuances, some sounds, some accents, behavior of how they would say it. You would be able to discern and tell, oh yeah, that's Chad or that's Jordan or that's so-and-so. For me, this is a struggle bus. I want 4 things in this life. I want to hear my wife say, I love you to me. I want to hear my daughter say, I love you to me. She's 18 going on 27, it seems like, and sort of snotty sometimes. So girls are tough. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
I would love to hear my dad say, I love you. And I'd love to hear my mom say it and mean it.
Wow.
So maybe there's 5. I really would love to hear God talk to me. I'm not going to say I'm jealous or envious. Kind of want what you have. And I'm not coveting it per se even. But I mean, there's just been so many times in my life that I've wanted to know 100% absolute assurance, Neil, this is the direction you're supposed to go in. And not feel like it's a long division, fractions divided equation, algebraic, don't even know anything about, or calculus, whatever. I'm not a math person, clearly. I want that. And you said once you said yes and you opened the door and it took some loud knocking, as you're illustrating, you said it's been on this wild ride. Yeah. It can't always be rainbows and unicorns and Hallmark movies. I'm sure there's been some downtime in this wild ride. What's been the hardest part of walking away from the safety and the security that you once had?
Yes, it has been. It's been a wild ride, a roller coaster, ups and downs. The down was I did join this consulting firm, and I was hired very shortly after all of this. So that was beautiful. It was a gift. It was exciting. It was very aligned with the things that I desired to help teams and people understand healthy relationships. However, a few months later, large client that was supposed to be handed to me didn't renegotiate their contract, which meant Stephanie had no work. Very quickly, I thought, I had this moment of panic thinking, God, did I get you right? Did I hear that? What's going on now? Maybe I didn't hear you. Again, I went back to prayer and just this sense of peace and trust. I could choose it. I could choose to freak out. I could choose to analyze. I was told once that intellectualizing, is this God's will or what are you doing? And let me just analyze the heck out of this. That is fear. I'd like to kind of call it faith or prudence or discernment or something else, but it's not. It's fear. And I could see that in front of me. My brain wants to panic, tell myself scary stories right now. And I can choose it because I'm free to do that. Real consequences. There's bank accounts and there's bills and there's mortgages. Like, Steph, this stuff is real. I could choose to freak out, or I could choose faith and peace, trust, and test this. Like, okay, God, if you called me here, then you know this math. You saw this coming. You know the downtime. You know that this was going to be a dry season. You want me here. Then I don't have to actually panic. If I believe that my God is a loving God who is working all things out for my good and his glory and who's using this time, then maybe that dry season, which to my bank account looks terrifying, maybe in a spiritual economy, it's intended for something else. And it absolutely has been. It was a beautiful season. I had more time with our kids and I had time to work on some other projects that were also on my heart. And I started a podcast about healthy relationships and marriage and divorce, and something that I've lived through. And I left a marriage. I pursued a divorce within my faith. And that's loaded with a bunch of theological questions. And I believe that was God's will. That was another divine moment where God was leading me through something that did not make sense, not only practically in our world, theologically, and on the church world. It was like, no, God doesn't do that. And yet I know he did. And these moments of trusting, okay, when things don't make sense, I don't need to rely on my own understanding. And when money dries up and it's not looking the way I would like to be, then what do I learn there? Well, I learned that truly my security came from the salary check I was collecting every month. It wasn't security in God. I would have told you it was 2 years ago. I would have told you, oh yeah, I trust God with everything. My finances, my blah, 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 right? I would have paid lip service to that for sure. As soon as those paychecks dried up, I got to see myself more clearly and recognize, no, actually, I trusted the paycheck, not God. And here again, God invites us deeper and he says, I want more from you. I want you to live in a free way that you're not afraid of these things. One time in prayer, and this is like a hearing thing, which take it for what you think. I had the sense of God saying, Steph, you never have to worry about finances again, unless you want to. And that hit me in this way of, yeah, I might want to. You know what? Some days I want to worry. I want to freak out and calculate and panic and get all worked up about it. If I do that, it is solely my choice to do it. God doesn't need me to do that to solve the problem.
Some people would still call you crazy.
Absolutely. And you know what, to them and even to you in desiring to hear God's voice, I believe God answers that. And I don't think it's reserved for a select few to hear God's voice and hear him speaking to us. It's whether or not we will choose to position ourselves, ask, and then listen. And I'm not saying you've never done this. I don't want to infer that you have done this or you did it wrong. I can admit in my own life and in my walk with Jesus that has been dynamic through all of this. I would say most of my prayer up until when life really got dynamic with the toxic marriage and divorce and all of that, that was the first time I really could, because I was so depleted. I needed God so much. I was just at my end. I said, okay, I have to rely on you. I have to learn. I have to listen. I have to let you be in control. And this sense of the acronym G.O.D, I don't know if you've heard, like gift of desperation. And that place in my life, I think I was so open that I was willing and able to hear. And again, not an audible voice, not like Stephanie, leave your husband, nothing like that. It's this sense of peace. God is love, then that's how he speaks. It'll be spoken in love.
That was a new one, by the way. The acronym.
Yes. Gift of desperation.
That's good. I haven't heard that one yet.
Can I ask you a question?
Wow.
Right? You said I couldn't. Well, might be able to, but
No, I said you might. Come on. There's never been a couldn't.
What would you want to ask God?
We don't have enough time for all of that. That's a hard one. I think deep down, I've read the Bible through and through. I know it pretty well. I mean, how else can I, by a little glimpse of what you say, pull up a random scripture? I know on a intellectual level, he loves everyone. God so loved the world that he gave. But I think part of me wants to hear him say, I love you. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I always believe that. I mean, I love him. I know. Yes, I do. I can't imagine not being able to hear. I mean, we've interviewed people that have been blind and have lost hearing. And I think that's the one sense that I never, ever hope I lose is the ability to listen. Mm-hmm. Seeing is one thing. Your eyes can trick you, but I feel like your ears don't always trick you as much. And I think that's what I would want to hear, is to actually hear him say that. And again, he says it, and people will say, well, he says it through God's word, Neil. He says it through his people. He says it through his creation. No sunset is ever the same. No sunrise is ever the same. Everything different. I mean, they've photographed it for years, and it's always different. It's never the same. But man, I sure as heck would love to hear him just one time.
Want to ask him?
I've asked him for years. I keep waiting for him to show up. Maybe he's got other things he's working on, like Stephanie or World Hunger.
Want to ask him now?
I want to ask you if we could go back in time. I mean, I don't know how old you are, nor am I asking. Probably even Canada, it's probably inappropriate to ask a woman her age. So I'm not asking. If we could go back, say, 15 years ago to that Stephanie, however old she was, and again, to tell us, you can do the math in your head. What did she need to hear 15 years ago that maybe could change the trajectory of the Stephanie now?
Yes. 15 years ago, I was relatively new to my faith. I grew up secular, almost atheist, I would say agnostic at least. So new to my faith, I had met a guy who was quite faithful. He knew a lot about church things and theology and the Bible, and he attended church all the time. And I thought that meant holy. A plus B equals C. I thought this is a holy person. That was incorrect. There's a big difference. There's a big, long journey between head and a heart. And a lot of head knowledge about God is not the same as heart for God. And I needed to know some truth about that. I married him and that did not go well. That Stephanie 15 years ago needed to know what what a healthy marriage could look like. I had a lot of lies that I believed at that time. Kind of all relationships are kind of be lousy. Therefore, if I'm in one that isn't very good, then I have arrived. Like, here we are. This is how it's going to be. So things like the yellow flags, the red flags in a relationship, I just thought that was kind of like green as go. Like, this is the standard. I didn't have a good sense of discerning what is required to have a healthy relationship. I knew in my faith, and I just said, hey, God, will you bless these decisions? That was how I behaved. And again, I thought, well, now he'll bless it and this will be holy. If we do, especially if we do the Christian dating recipe, you meet at a Christian event, then you court each other, courtship, you don't date, there's courtship, no sex before marriage, then you get married relatively quick. And this is going to be a blessed recipe. I thought that's how you get a holy marriage. And that is not how you get one, I've learned. So I didn't know that. I needed guidance. I needed wise counsel. I needed a lot of lies to be debunked and God to clear that up, which he did in time, but it was a painful kind of a surgery process. Yeah. And I look back at that girl back then, and she was scared. She was confused. She had a low sense of self-worth and insecurities, thinking, hey, you know what? Find a guy who wants to marry you and let's just make it work. Buckle down. Marriage is hard. It takes work. So just get to work. And I have a real beef with that sentence. Actually, marriage is hard. It takes work. It needs to be qualified. Sometimes we use that sentence and it just endorses abuse. So we have to be really careful with that. Stephanie, 15 years ago, didn't know how to walk with God, didn't know her worth or her identity in Christ. And I heard this, a great author I've been binge consuming lately is called Jamie Winship. And if you haven't heard this guy, he's phenomenal. Honestly, I've spent hours consuming his stuff recently. He talks about this identity. And he says, you know, if you ask a Christian, who are you? And they'll say, I'm a child of God, right? He's like, that's garbage. That's garbage. That's who everyone is, a child of God. We're all children of God. So that's not your identity. That's like saying, I'm in the human race. That's not an identity. That's a state of being. And it's a fact. So the identity, what is your identity? And that is, he says, it's given through community, through God. And I didn't have that back then. I didn't know who I was. So I was trying to attach to my situation in life, a relationship, a job, degree, these things to build an identity around me instead of actually asking the Father, who am I? And he will answer that question. He does. And it's beautiful to hear that and then build a life on that instead of kind of filling holes, even in a faithful way.
The classic line, what do you do? What do you do for a living?
Yes.
In your experience, sounds like you're kind of a relationship aficionado, like relationships really well.
I've learned it the hard way, both corporately and personally. Yes.
That's your wheelhouse, it feels like?
That's right.
Is there a such thing as workplace balance? Or is that another buzzword entity that we're throwing around that maybe we should eliminate from our said vocabulary?
Workplace balance. I don't really care for that term. I think a better way to think about that is priority. Priority, the word is actually singular. It's not a plural word. So what is the priority in my life? For me, it's not going to be the job. It is something else. Work can fit in there. It needs proper order. When we get that order wrong, and this is God's design, anytime we have an order wrong, it's not going to function as well. What we see in a lot of society is that incorrect order. Workplace is high. Then it's usually, for parents, then it's going to be kids and running their sports around. And then somewhere down below is marriage and then maybe our personal lives. And that is disordered. That's not how God designed it. Anytime we have that in the correct order, there's a consequence. There's a suffering that will be endured and we'll experience that.
So in your mind, what's the order that things should go in?
I think it should be a relationship with God. So I'm part of that. Marriage. So the spouse, kids, a job, hobbies. I didn't list myself in there, but it is in there in the relationship with me and God. I'm up there. If that's the order, then someone would argue, but Steph, you're neglecting yourself. No, because God wouldn't have me neglect myself. We can't, pour out of an empty cup. by following God first, that will be taken care of as well.
You have to put yourself above your marriage.
Well, I think if we put God above our marriage, our well-being will be taken care of. Yes. And our marriage needs to be above our children. And that is not common. That's why most divorces are happening around 27 years. I learned this recently. That's interesting. That's empty nest. That's the empty nest era. And you realize at that point, hey, the reason we stayed together is they're now moved out of the house. And so there's nothing left. And that's a tragedy. If we love our children, we should love our spouse and preserve that at all costs.
In case my daughter hears this, she never listens. In case she does. Adia, I do love your mom more than you.
Yes.
So
and that is a generous, beautiful thing to say.
I'm serious. I love my wife and I love my daughter, but I love my wife more than my daughter. I really do. They're not equal. They're not equal. Adia is just one step down, just baby step down. They have to be. Mm-hmm. My wife's with me forever. My daughter's with me for hopefully 22 years. Mm-hmm. And then she can find her way somewhere else. And then we'll go to her house and wreck it and do all the things that she's done to our house. Leave her dog all over the place. Stephanie, how can people get in touch with you? Because I'm going to guess you really want to help people understand and prioritize their relationships. Not that you're a relationship expert again, but you're kind of a balance expert of really making sure people understand that there has to be a balance. And if things get out of balance, you're going to get dizzy and probably fall over because you have an equilibrium issue. That's a big word. Tell us more about how someone can get in touch with you about your work, and then we'll play our game together. So it'll be something fun that we can leave with. And maybe a social media of choice that you love to hang out on.
So there's two ways. So the work I'm doing now is both corporate and personal. So helping create clarity and health in either of those arenas. And corporately, the website is teamwork.ca. TEEM, so not like teaming, like bees. It's from the book of Genesis, TEEM work.ca. And then on the personal side, it's called theclarityadvantage.com. And that's where I'm helping people understand the difference between a boundary and a rule and healthy conflict skills and that arena that, again, I had to learn the hard, clumsy way. Just want to hear the rest of the story about following God's will and answering that knock. You can follow me on Facebook, Stephanie Rivard, at The Clarity Advantage on there. And I don't know. The reason I wanted to come on here and I thought to offer, and I left it up to your discernment, was I know when I was contemplating these big life decisions and following God and following these knocks and opening that door, I didn't have examples of my life of people doing this. So it was terrifying. I couldn't look around and say, well, John did this, or my parents did this, or, these people that could, by their example, give me some encouragement or confidence. I didn't have that. As I share this with other people, and as they watch me do crazy things and step out in faith and follow and open that door, it seems that people found some curiosity in that. And so I'm just opening up my journey in case someone wants to vicariously test the theory. Can we trust God when things don't make sense? Feel free to come along for the journey.
I liked the game Simon Says until I got out at the game Simon Says. I wasn't listening well enough to when he didn't say, or the person didn't say, well, Simon didn't say that.
Right.
And that's what I love about what you're saying is it doesn't have to be a game. It doesn't have to be this hard thing to try to follow, that it does really help if there's somebody else's footsteps that you can walk and emulate and walk beside. That to me is one of the greatest gifts in life, is when you have somebody there to kind of link up with, whether it be a handhold or an arm around your shoulder or buddy system. I mean, even in the movie Toy Story, for goodness sakes, does everybody have a moving buddy? If you don't, get one.
Yeah.
Power in the idea of having that buddy system with you. Life just sucks if you're alone. It just does. I love that you're going to be perhaps a buddy to some. So that's awesome. Stephanie, here's our game. It's called Heal Hustle. It's the fastest growing game in the podcast community from what I've been told by our experts. So Zach, he is our host. He's going to take us through Heal Hustle. So Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heal Hustle. Today, our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Stephanie, who was your childhood crush?
My neighbor.
That's interesting. All right. What is your secret talent?
Baking sourdough bread.
Okay. Person you would trade places with for a year.
Ooh. Mel Robbins.
Weirdest job you've ever had.
I worked at CP Rail, a railroad company, for 4 days and then never went back because I hated it.
All right. Biggest risk you've ever taken.
Quit my job without a plan.
I think we talked about that. Who needs a hug from you today and why?
Probably our youngest daughter. She just got home from a long day's school and I know she's upstairs, probably tired and grumpy.
All right. Well, Stephanie, that's our game. It's called Heel Hustle. Great job. You're one of the few that actually got it done in 60 seconds. It seems to stump some people. I don't know why. The childhood crush seems to stump people. And then the secret talent. Those two, like right out of the gate, seems to stumble over people. But you did great. You did fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Stephanie, thanks again for coming on today. Thanks for the acronym, which, by the way, give it to us one more time. The G.O.D acronym was what?
G.O.D. The gift of desperation.
The gift of desperation. All right. Well, that's awesome. Stephanie, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on today. We really appreciate everything that you gave and everything that you shared. It was very insightful. So thanks for that. We really appreciate you.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Neil. Thank you.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. Guess what? That is it. That is all. Yep. That is our show. In fact, today. I know you're still hanging around. Well, here's why you're still hanging around. It's like the post-credits scene of a Marvel movie. It's pretty exciting. Come on. What if tomorrow, being Thursday, because, today's Wednesday, you woke up, stretched, told your Alexa alarm clock to stop making the horrible sound she's making, grabbed your phone off the nightstand, opened up the text app, found your boss's name in the contacts, and you wrote, "We need to talk," and you send it. A few minutes later, maybe a few seconds later, he or she writes back, "This probably isn't a text conversation." And you drive into work and you're like, okay, deep breath as you walk into the office, go into their office or go to their desk, and you say, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm out. Who's coming with me? And you take the goldfish with you. Okay, all this is a dream, right? Pinch yourself. You're dreaming. It's not real. Or is it reality? What's the biggest step you maybe need to take this week to improve your relationships? Maybe it is a conversation with your employer to say, listen, things need to get better, or maybe I need to change. I have a feeling I have a friend now in Canada that might be able to help you with those thoughts and ideas you may be having. She's nice. You heard her accent. Everyone in Canada is nice. They have maple syrup up there. Come on. They're sweet. Think about that this week. What is that next step you need to take in your life to figure out, am I on the right path or not? If you're unsure, it's okay. You can let me know too. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can let me know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. And don't forget this, so important before we go, so incredibly important. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to say thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned till next week when, guess what? That's right, we're going to walk in other people's shoes.